Am I single or taken? Why I moved to Melbourne, where I'm planning to live, which unis did I apply to? Is it true that Australia has a lot of spiders? How I'm in my second year at 19. Do you think that living at college adds strain on your relationship? Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you are new, hi, my name is Taylor. This video is a great place to start because today I'm doing an introductory Q&A. I've had a heap of new subscribers come to my channel, and if you are one of them, thank you so much for being here. And thank you so much for sending in your questions via Instagram and via the YouTube community tab. So I reckon we just get straight on into it with the most commonly asked question, which was about my degree and what I'm studying. So I am studying a Bachelor of Science majoring in psychology at the University of Melbourne. I am just about halfway through my degree, so my degree is 3 years long and I'm in my second semester of my second year. Am I single or taken? I have a boyfriend, Toby, and I've been with him for almost 18 months. We met last year at uni. A couple of questions about why I moved to Melbourne from Sydney to go to university and why I chose to study at uni melb. There were a few reasons. When I was younger, we used to come to Melbourne all the time and I always loved visiting, and I just kind of felt that I fitted in here well. And so from about year 10, I was pretty set on moving to Melbourne, and I just thought that the lifestyle here in Melbourne was so different to Sydney. When I got to the end of year 12, I really felt that I wanted to leave my kind of Sydney bubble and have a fresh start in Melbourne. I didn't really leave high school with many good friends, and I just really wanted a fresh start. So yeah, I was really glad that I'd applied to go to uni melb and move to Melbourne. I also thought that the colleges here in Melbourne looked way more appealing than they did in Sydney. If I'd stayed in Sydney, I probably wouldn't have gone to college because it didn't make much sense, but college in Melbourne just sounded so fun. I had a friend who went to college here and I was just so excited by the idea of it. So moving to Melbourne to go to college was a huge factor as well. And I also liked the idea of Melbourne because I knew that it wasn't too far away from home. Obviously with COVID, it makes it much more difficult than it normally is, but it's only an hour-and-a-half flight normally just to get home. So I knew that I could go home for weekends and for holidays when I wanted to. A few questions about where I'm planning to live if I'm planning on staying in Melbourne. So next year I'll be staying in Melbourne because I'm still completing my degree at uni melb. I'm moving into a share house with two of my friends, so I'm leaving college at the end of this year, and then I'm actually taking an extra semester at uni melb because I've kind of delayed my degree a bit. I've just spread it out. The following year I'll probably stay in Melbourne for another 6 months, and then after that, honestly, I don't know. I always thought that I'd stay in Melbourne for the foreseeable future, for probably 5+ years, but this year I've started to really consider moving away and where I want to move to after Melbourne, and I just think that maybe Melbourne isn't my place. I think part of it also is the fact that my experience of Melbourne has just been COVID, so I haven't properly experienced living in Melbourne. So this might all change, but I miss the beach, to be honest. I grew up on the beaches in Sydney, so I've been really craving the beach and just a different setting. Another thing that I'm taking into consideration is doing honours. Currently, I'm planning on doing honours, so my 4th year of study in psychology. But psychology is such a competitive degree that basically you apply everywhere you can in Australia, and you kind of have to be open to going anywhere just because uni melb, for example, is very competitive to get into. So at the start, when I found that out last year at the start of my bachelor's degree, it really freaked me out. But now it honestly excites me, and I'm feeling really flexible and kind of keen to move wherever. It's so weird how things change within a year. Someone asked how I'm in my second year at 19 years old. So I was actually young for my year at school. So I graduated year 12 when I was 17. My birthday is in April, so I'm not super young, but in Australia, most people graduate high school when they're 18, and I graduated when I was 17 and came to college and moved to Melbourne when I was 17. I also didn't take a gap year. If I'd taken a gap year, I probably would have been, I guess, caught up to my peers. As soon as I turned 18, my age just didn't matter whatsoever. And yeah, it does not bother me one bit, but in high school it definitely bothered me, especially in year 12 when all of my friends were 18 and I couldn't do anything with them. How was the transition moving to Melbourne? So I knew two people when I moved to Melbourne, and they actually came to the same college as me, but I absolutely tried not to cling to them in my first few weeks at college, which was definitely a good idea. And the transition was actually really easy for me, but I definitely put that all down to coming to college. We have an orientation week at college where it's literally just an intense week of making friends and settling into Melbourne and to college life. And there's just no way that you can leave the end of that week without having made friends. So yeah, the transition to Melbourne for me was really, really easy because I had college to help me with that. It's definitely harder if you don't go to college, but it's also not impossible at all. My boyfriend didn't come to college last year and he moved to Melbourne from interstate by himself, knowing no one, and he was fine. He made so many friends at uni, so it's obviously doable. Do I have any siblings? I have a younger sister who is 16. Which unis did I apply to? This one's actually really funny. So I applied to University of Melbourne. That was the university that I wanted to go to the most. And I also applied to University of Sydney and Macquarie University, which are both in New South Wales. And it's funny now because I look back on it and I don't regret coming to uni melb, but I definitely think that I should have explored my options here in Victoria a little bit more. Basically at the time, if I didn't get into uni melb, I wouldn't have moved to Victoria, which is ridiculous now because I actually think that I'm more suited to a different university that I'm obviously not at now. Again, it's one of those things that like you never know, and I made a decision with kind of the information that I had at the time. But yeah, I think my school also promoted only the bigger universities, and I was so set on uni melb that I didn't even do my own research on other unis in Victoria. My dream job or career. So obviously I'm doing psychology and I have been pretty set on ending up in educational and developmental psychology. I really want to work with kids and I want to work kind of in the education field. Some subjects that I've been doing at uni have kind of introduced me to the field of well-being and positive psychology, which have really interested me. So I'm looking at that as well and kind of incorporating those two things together. Part of me also wants to do clinical psychology, not as much, but I always know that if the educational psychology thing doesn't work out, then I can fall back onto clinical psychology, and that I'd really enjoy that too. And then if all else fails, I'd love to be a teacher, and hopefully I can keep doing this on the side and see where this kind of goes. I'd love to be able to do this as a career and hopefully kind of balance the two and make the two work together somehow. What kind of music do you listen to, and do you listen to music when studying? I don't listen to music when I'm studying. In high school, I used to listen to classical music with no words when I was doing maths, but that was it. My favorite kind of music, I have very basic music taste. I'm not very proud of it. I normally just listen to my friends' playlists, and my favorite artist currently is Kate Miller-Heidke, and her genre is kind of like pop opera. I guess that's not overly mainstream, but at the same time still kind of is. But yeah, I always wish I was that person who had like awesome music and like everyone loved their playlists, but I'm just not. What camera and editing software do you use? So I have a Canon EOS M50 and I currently use iMovie. I had the free trial of Final Cut Pro and absolutely loved it, but it's like $500 to buy it. So that is my current saving goal. I want to buy that as soon as I can, just because it gives you so much more creative freedom when editing videos. But I'm making do with iMovie. I found some little tricks to help me, but yeah, it just makes the process a lot longer. But it's a good kind of beginner thing to use and it does the job. So that's what I'm currently using. What exactly does your job require you to do the behavioral therapist one? So I got a job as an ABA behavioral therapist, working with children with autism. I haven't actually started the job yet or completed my training like assessment. It's a long story. I just haven't been able to schedule a time to go in for my practical assessment. But honestly, I'm okay with waiting a little bit longer. My life is just a bit hectic at the moment, so I don't think right now is the top of my priorities. But I've still got the job, I'll start working hopefully in the next few months or at least next year. But basically you work one-on-one with a child with autism, and it's all about teaching them skills. I will definitely talk more about it when I've started working there and actually done some work with the kids. But based on the training, yeah, you just work one-on-one with them in different settings, at home, maybe at school, at their preschool, and it's all about just teaching them skills like painting or washing their hands. So that's basically it in a nutshell, and I will talk more about it once I get started. Okay, some questions about living in Australia. Is it true that Australia has a lot of spiders? I don't know, but not like an outrageous amount of spiders. Like there's not just constantly spiders in my room. But I've also never lived anywhere else outside of Australia, so I don't know if spiders are like a rare thing to see anywhere else. But no, they're not everywhere all the time, at least not in the city. What do you like most about living in Australia? I love how you can get the best of both worlds. For example, at home in Sydney, we lived on the beach, so we had, you know, the whole beach life, and then we were about 20 minutes away from the city, so we could like live the city life, and then you can drive like 40 minutes up the road and there are farms, and it kind of feels really separated from the city. How am I adjusting to weather in Melbourne? What I said before about missing the beach, I think that's also a bit of winter blues. We're in winter here at the moment in Melbourne, and I'm not loving it, but it's also not as cold as I thought it would be. I always thought that I'd like not be able to leave without like putting on a massive coat and like a scarf, but it's not that bad. I definitely wouldn't let the Melbourne winter deter me from moving to Melbourne. Do you think that living at college adds strain on your relationship? Yeah, well, you basically live together. That's what it's like. Like we sleep together every night, we see each other, we eat meals together all day, we often study together, so it's like a very intense environment. So yeah, we've had to work through that and kind of adapt to that. As amazing as it sounds, it's also adds a bit of a strain on our relationship, and so that's why next year we're not moving out together, we're gonna move out into separate houses. I got a heap of questions about uni and about college and about just general uni melb advice, so I thought that I would do that in a different video specifically about uni and college. So I've got those questions written down, and I'll also put another question box up on Instagram and on YouTube for you guys to submit your questions regarding uni and college. So stay tuned for that if you have any further questions. But that brings me to the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed, and thank you so much for asking me questions. Make sure to go and follow me on Instagram to stay up to date with everything and just to chat on there if you have any further questions. I respond to all of my DMs, at least I try to, so you can chat with me that way. But that's it for this video. Thank you for watching again, and I will see you next time.